So Wireless announced a Drake takeover, and there's think pieces about why people over the age of 30 can't attend. What's that about? I don't know what's wrong, why we do this ageism thing. Like, we always do this thing where people are told they're too old to do things, or you shouldn't be doing this at certain ages, or you shouldn't enjoy life by a certain age. But it doesn't make sense because it's just a limitation that makes no sense. Like, we've got this thing against people getting old, against people aging, getting experience. It's crazy. Like, I'm seeing think pieces about why when wireless happens, people over certain ages shouldn't go. People over the age of 30 or 35 shouldn't go. And that doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, like people that have lived, that people that was outside when Vibes Cartel was outside, people that were outside when Drake was like coming up, people that were there for history can go to any place. They can go and rave, they can go and party, they can be outside. This whole thing, I see it all the time online. I see people always say, oh, at your age or whatever, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. And I always think, what's the underlying thing? Like, do people just regurgitate information they hear somewhere and then think it makes sense? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. Because the truth is, everyone young is one day going to be old. Like, if, God willing, you live long, you're healthy, you pray to grow old. That's the whole point. If you don't grow old, then you're gone. And that's not a blessing. That's that's a mad situation. Yeah, why do people always kind of go in on people that aren't, because they're older? Like, I don't understand it. Like, I was on social media, whatever, like everyone else. And yeah, people were making points about, wireless is a young man's game. How, if you're over the age of 30, you can't go wireless and this kind of stuff. And with Drake going to wireless now, doing the 3-day takeover, people shouldn't be there, and people shouldn't be there, especially on Sunday. And I'm like, you've got Burna Boy, Vibes Cartel, and Drake on a Sunday, and you think that people that were outside when these tunes were really hitting off, it's not gonna be there. Excuse me, like the people that have experienced a bit of life need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, working since the age of 16, life has really hit them. Maybe they've booked an annual leave on Monday so they can really enjoy their night. Yeah, of course, they need to pick me up. Of course they need to enjoy it, or just let loose and let off some steam. Like, what are you talking about? And I think it lends itself to a bigger thing where, for some reason in society, everyone doesn't think they're ever going to get old. People don't think they're going to age. People just don't understand that the aim of life is to grow old. The alternative is to not be here no more. And nobody doesn't, you want to be here. The prayer is to be here, to live long. So why do we stigmatize and make people that have aged feel bad? I'll tell you why. It's by design, it's programming, it's people not realizing social engineering, social programming, I would say. Like, I was having a conversation the other day with someone about the music industry and how the music industry they always say it's a young man's game, especially with rap music, grime, whatever you want to call it. They always say it's a young person's game. It's always, oh yeah, he's so old now, he can't do this, he can't do that. But then when you look at like maybe other cultures, when you look at other industries, let's say a genre, rock music or something, or heavy metal, you see these genres of music, they can have someone that's really, really old and they're still respected, they still sell out, and people kind of realize, you're growing old with that person. You know what I'm saying? So, like, even like the other day, I think Phil Collins like had his like last ever show because, of course, with health conditions, he can no longer perform. But he's had a long and illustrious career, like doing, performing, and his fan base has aged with him, as in like they've seen the progression, they've seen life. Like, some people might have gone to his earlier concerts and they were there for that last one. But I don't know, for some reason, in certain spaces, we kind of, with this younger generation, we're kind of looking at aging like a mad thing. So, like, why I say UK rap, it's like everyone always wants to have this thing as a young man's game, and people don't realize that's by design, that the social consensus is that once you get to a certain age, you kind of die down. Like, people don't check for you as much. When realistically, that doesn't make sense. Now, of course, if you're appealing to a younger crowd, younger people have more time. They actually have more time to do certain things. So let's say you're an artist and you're young yourself, you appeal to maybe, mid-20s and below. It makes sense because that age group, that's when you don't have any responsibilities. You might not have wife, you might not have kids, you might not have any big things. You might not have a mortgage, you might not have a house. You don't have any big things weighing you down. So if you want to go and burn and spend a silly amount of money on a ticket, or a silly amount of money on merchandise, or a silly amount of money to go on a tour that, when you look at it, might not make sense, you're more likely to do it then. But then I think that's wrong, because you also have the other side where, okay, that may be the case, but then you also have the other case where if you're older and you've aged more and you've got more life, you're earning more as well. Maybe you've got to a point where you're earning more. You're still going to go out once in a while. You're still going to do certain things. And you might even have more disposable income down the line when you've kind of got, things sorted out, and you've got maybe the dream career job, or you're more stable later on in life. You might still want to go out, and you should still have that place to go out, because at the end of the day, yes, you age physically, yes, you age mentally, but you should always be able to have the freedom to go anywhere you want, to have the freedom to go to any place you want. You pay money to go to a certain place, you should feel okay to do that. And I don't think people realize that all these kind of things, some of these things are by design. And why I use the music example is because you kind of see it as a tale as old as time, where you have an artist that they're green behind the ears, very young, they'll get signed, they don't know anything, they don't have any experience of the music industry, and you hear it all the time where they get signed, they sign over, sign a contract that they don't really read because they're young, they're not thinking, and like I've said before, your brain, the long-term thinking of your brain is not, when you're younger, it's not as developed. So you're just thinking of the now. So you're getting situations where artists can sign over crazy amount of albums and the money doesn't make sense. But because they're young, they're young, so they don't think of the consequences. And you always see it, like, all the time. They'll sign the contract, they'll get the money, and then they'll always be like 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, where now they realize that they got bumped. They might learn about sync publishing. They might learn about, how much they actually have to sell to recoup the money that the label has given them. They are going to now start to understand the business. They're now going to understand branding, marketing, expenses, all these kind of things. They always learn. And then you always kind of see it gets to a point where eventually, as the artist is getting older, they evolve to now they want to, get a fairer deal. They might want to negotiate to get a better deal, better payout, shorter terms. They might even want to go independent and say, release me. I want to release my own music. I know how to do it now. And you always see that certain labels, whatever, might not want that. Or, and you kind of see it in that regard where when you think of it, it makes sense why in certain circles they may say, we don't want the older people, because the older you get, the more it's going to be the likelihood of you being able to get duped, or the likelihood of you not understanding the reality of what you're signing is going to be diminished. So this is why, for me, I think that's one of the reasons, not the only, why in some cases you're seeing that narrative being pushed, let's say from the music aspect, where they make certain things feel like it's a young man's game, when in reality it's not that it's a young man's game. It's just that some things as you get older won't make sense. It's not going to be financially sensible. But the other thing I think is this whole thing of this social media thing of never getting old, never aging. You're always going to be young, all this kind of thing where everyone wants to fight to be this picture perfect young person forever. And that's not life. That doesn't exist. I remember when I was younger, I had one of my teachers, big up Mr. Collins. We used to have proper banter. We used to joke about, and he was bald. And back then, my hairline was intact. So we always used to joke about, I'd be like, haha, Yeah, sir, you haven't got any hair. And I'd be like, yeah, man, you're jealous because I got a hairline, all this kind of stuff. Me and the teacher, we joked about, that was what we did. Like, he was a proper cool teacher. Drama. He used to teach drama. Anyway, I remember I was like, yeah. And I remember one day he was like, one day you might get to my age or near my age and you won't have no hair. What will happen then? I was like, oh, watch. I'll never be in that situation. My hairline's forever, whatever. And then lo and behold, you grow up and then, aging happens. The hairline, falls to the wayside and then you have to just change your hairstyle and go with what you got in it. And it's funny, as funny as it sounds and whatever, you kind of realize that life comes fast. So the people that you were laughing at or the people that you were judging, one day you will be those people. Those people that your age is towards, one day you're going to be that age. And then those same things you used to say to older people, that you're too old to do this, you're too old to be here, you're too old to be doing that. You'll get to that age and you'll realize, I don't feel old. I still want to do these things. I still want to go somewhere and party. I still want to, from time to time, enjoy myself. I still want to go to a concert and a carnival or whatever, and I don't want to feel judged about it. Like, you do what you got to do. And quite frankly, once you're that age anyway, once you've been through life experiences anyway, you're not going to care what people think anyway. So that's that one. And I'll tell you now, over 35s are going to be at wireless. You're not going to stop it. People can get the pitchforks down. People have a right to go and party where they want to party. Like, I don't understand this thing where people do this. And then where it's sad, yeah, because I've seen it now where, when you're young, you're always braggadocious. You always think you're more reckless. You take more risks because, yet again, you're young. You've got the vitality of life. You're the best. You're in the best physical shape you're ever going to be in. It's easy to do things. Like, you always bounce back. You're growing. You've got the vitality. And what I notice is that this is actually why we're seeing some depression and stuff like that now, because a lot of things that with your young, naive mind that you think is, oh, by this age, I'm going to do this, or by this old age, like, I remember when I was younger, people used to always say this thing like, oh, when I'm 30, I'm going to have life figured out. And you hear people say now, like, imagine we used to think life was figured out at 30. Imagine we used to think that 30 was old. It's nothing. 30 is young. Like, 30, you've had experience, yes, but 30 is not old. And to say you're going to have life figured out at 30 is like, you only get to 30 and realize, no, that doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think people, we have this infatuation right now where everyone doesn't want to age. Everyone wants to age shame. Everyone wants to say there's a certain age to do certain things. And that's not the case. Like, I think people need to realize people age. So if people want to, rave, if people want to go wireless, if people want to see Vibes Cartel and all that, they should. Like, looking at the shows Vibes Cartel's done, looking at the shows that Drake has been doing, looking at the shows that everyone else has been doing on those days, Burna Boy, all this kind of stuff, is a proper live event. So everyone should be able to go. Everyone should be able to enjoy themselves. And I think we need to stop this age shaming thing. You're seeing these things where people are going like, oh my gosh, look at me at 30. As if like 30 is like so old and it's like the pinnacle of aging. And it's like 30 is this like universal cutoff point where once you reach 30, that's it. It's all done. And your life is on the decline, and that doesn't make sense. It's not the way forward. Like, so with all this wireless stuff and all that, yeah, everyone, man, chill out and watch your thing. I remember there was a time where me and my friends went out, and it was like you could see the divide, like the generational divide, where you could see the difference between the people that grew up when you actually went out to have fun and you didn't care about camera phones, and then you had the camera phone generation where it was like, it's like they were scared to catch a vibe because they didn't want to end up on Snapchat, interacting, engaging, and talking with people. So, but what was good is that when you had the older lot, a kind of set pace where they were kind of enjoying, vibing, dancing and stuff, as the night progressed, as the night went on, you just saw that because the older people had set pace and, laid out an example, things were happening. So people were just enjoying themselves, and it actually ended up being a good night. You know, songs were coming on, everyone's dancing. You even had this part where, you know, it had the Soul Train, and then everyone's just enjoying themselves, you know, doing what they need to do. And I think that is what we all need to be doing, you know. So we shouldn't age shame. People need it. People need a break from life. Life is hard. And I think we need to get away from this age shaming thing where people are trying to say wireless is only for people of a certain age and stuff. It's a festival, like anyone can go. As long as you're going, having a good vibe and being a decent human being, there's no reason why you shouldn't go, you know? So when people are trying to say, yeah, all the people over 30 should stay at home and all this kind of stuff, it's not making sense. Some of the people over 30 were outside. They built this thing brick by brick. They were outside when Vibes was outside. They were outside when Drake was coming up. They were outside when Burna Boy was coming up and all these other kind of stuff. So I think people just need to allow it. It's just, people need to stop it. It's just social media stuff where people say things online because it sounds cool. But in reality, in real life, that's not the case. That doesn't happen anywhere. There's no, it doesn't hold water. You know, it doesn't hold firm. It's not a real thing. And I think, we just have there's a deeper thing there about aging and people putting an age on things. So, you know, what is the age where somebody can't go somewhere and enjoy and hold a little vibe? Do you know what I'm saying? As long as you're, you know, being authentic and yourself, what does that matter? You know, like you see situations where, you know, people will say, at your age, why are you at a bar or something? Or at your age, why are you here? Like, if someone's holding a vibe and doing what they're supposed to do, there's no reason why they can't be there, why they can't be doing their thing. So I just always think it's always a weird one. It's always a strange one when people are just always going on about the age, you know? Like, and it even takes me, when I think of it in another situation, it even takes me when I'm thinking about, like, I remember I had a neighbor, yeah, and she, you know, she grew up running her whole life. Like, from when she was young, she always used to ran a lot of marathons, done a lot of things. And I remember, like, you would see her in the old age, like 70 plus, still running. She'd be doing it from when she was young all the way to when she was old. It was part of her. It's what she's always known, what she's always done. And I remember we always used to ask her, like, oh my gosh, like, how do you do it? And she was just like, I've always done this. This has always been what I've done. I'm always going to do this. This is what I know. This is what I've done from young. And I've always been able to, you know, maintain it and keep myself moving. And her philosophy was, if you stop moving, you age faster. If you stop enjoying things, if you stop experiencing things, experiencing life, if you don't use it, you lose it. And even from a physical standpoint, that's true as well. Like, even if you don't use your muscles, you know, you don't train your muscles, after a certain age, your muscles deteriorate faster. And this is where, you know, if you're not living a certain lifestyle when you're younger, you can't live it when you're older. And I also think mentally as well, that's a thing. So I think people should be allowed to do what brings them joy. If it's going to wireless, there's no problem there. It's not a talking point. If somebody is a dancer, they've always danced, they like to go out, catch a vibe, shake a leg or two somewhere, they should be allowed to do that, and people shouldn't ridicule them. Like, it's always funny because people say these things, but we always see videos where on social media where there might be like an old man that's like breakdancing somewhere or dancing somewhere, and everyone's happy to see it. It puts a smile on your face, like, oh my gosh, you're old, you know, you're old, but you're still living life. You're still living life to the fullest, and everyone kind of likes that. Everyone holds a smile. Everyone feels happy seeing that. So then, where does this discourse come from? And I just think it's just social media being social media. I think it's people saying things that, you know, may or may not be true, saying things that just to be ageist, just to kind of take over things. And I think there's a bigger thing about age, and putting expectations on age. Now, of course, as you get older, as you age, you mature, you evolve, and all of that. but then you should still be fundamentally you. You should be still able to enjoy things that you want to do. You know, when you're young, you can play PlayStation, you know, on the whole weekend. When you're older, you can still play PlayStation, but if you've got certain responsibilities, you'll move accordingly. But you can still play PlayStation. You should still be able to play PlayStation when it makes sense, when you can, when you've done all your responsibilities for the day. So, you know, if you've got a kid and your kid is crying and they need their nappy changed, you wouldn't be putting on the PlayStation then. But when your kid is changed, they're in bed, you know, Call of Duty time. So I think people, there's a bigger thing about age, and I think this is where a lot of this rhetoric comes from. A lot of this thinking of you can't do things, you can't be in certain places with other age groups because of your age, and it doesn't make sense. Like, even like when you look at it properly, like even in the music industry, you see it with artists as well, where an artist will be, after a certain age, people start saying, oh, they're too old to, you know, they're not it anymore, all that kind of stuff, where there's a high turnover, where people don't check for people as their age as an artist anyway. So, but it doesn't make sense, because if you're still good, you're still good. If you still have talent, you have talent. If you're still making good songs, meaningful songs, that's the way forward. And you change anyway, you know, you evolve. Your content becomes different. What you prioritize becomes different, but you should still be fundamentally you. But we live in a world where everybody wants to promote, you know, the newest thing on the block, the youngest thing on the block. And that's not reality. That's not the case. That shouldn't be the case, because end of the day, you always hope, you pray that you age. You know, you in life you have two options. You either grow old or you sign out early. We're all praying to God to age gracefully, to age well, to live long life, to live to old age. So then, at the same time, why is it a bad thing? Why do we look at aging as a bad thing, or people trying to live fulfilling lives and go to festivals and enjoy life and experience things as a bad thing, or as a thing to be ridiculed, when realistically speaking, one day you'll be 30, one day you'll be 35, one day you'll be 40, 50, 60, whatever. And it's funny when you look at those situations when you're younger and you're able to talk because you're young, but then would you still say the same thing when you're now that age? So you're now the age where people were ridiculing and taking a mick out of. Will it still be funny then? You know? Like, I remember a situation when I was younger where, you know, big up Mr. Collins, yeah, drama school teacher back in the day. And we used to have banter, and he was bald. And I remember like being like, oh, Mr. Collins, ha ha ha, like, you're bald, oh, like, you must be really old, all that kind of stuff. And I remember he was like, oh, one day you might get older and one day you won't have hair. And I was like, nah, my hairline is strong, it's never gonna age and all of that. And, you know, life catches up to you and your, you know, hairline falls to the wayside. And then, you know, it's a minor thing, it's not a big deal, whatever, but it's always funny when you know, life can humble you. The people you ridicule, one day you might be in those shoes, and then it won't be funny then, and then you'll understand the other side of it. So I just think a lot of this stuff, this age-based ridicule and stuff, I think it all sounds well and good to the people doing it. It's all funny, it's all games, it's all jokes. But then it's not a joke when now you get to that point and you don't feel old and you still want to go wireless, and then people are making you feel the way that you can't go. So go wireless, shake a leg, enjoy, and yeah, that's it. I'll catch you in the next one.